Everybody's doing it for investment. What about some alternative investing while we're at it? Well, let's just take a moment to appreciate two very different works of art. On the left, a mobile by Alexander Calder, which sold for nearly $6 million at a live-streamed auction at Christie's last night. And on the right, an NFT, a non-fungible token of CNN founder Ted Turner, launching this network, selling at $25 each. Everywhere you look, a digital revolution in the art market is upon us. And according to my next guest, online sales doubled in value last year to make up a quarter of the total market. And that democratizes the process away from auction houses and traditional forms of selling art. The online marketplace Artsy is reporting the shift firsthand. It says 58% of collectors used online marketplaces last year, and among 18 to 44-year-olds, that number hit 90%. Mike Steib is CEO of Artsy, and he joins us now. Mike, fantastic to have you on the show. Wow, there was a lot of information there. Just take a step back and talk to us about the shift that we've seen to a quarter of the art market now taking place online.
Thank you, Julia. As your viewers may know, Artsy is the world's largest marketplace for fine art. We've worked over the last decade with thousands of galleries, auction houses, and millions of collectors from 100 countries to better serve the art world online and to better understand collectors and their needs. Our new online art market report helps to bring more of that to light for the industry. And what we're finding is fascinating. People who collect art bought more art than they ever did. The majority bought more art than ever before in the last year. They expect and demand transparency and easy access. And most surprisingly, I think, to a lot of the industry, the majority of collectors and the vast majority of next generation collectors expect to do it from a mobile device. The art world used to be one where people felt you had to see the work in person and you had to ask someone to know the price. And what we're seeing today is that the expectation is transparency, low friction, easy access, and a joyful online experience.
Wow. I mean, you hit me with a lot there, so we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down. Like, as fascinating as it is, I mean, you just described what you guys are doing, and that's part of what's helped you build this report, because you're seeing a lot of these art flows. And just to give us a sense of the kind of buyers that are coming to your platform to buy this art, but also kind of the price that this art's selling for. These are not small pieces of art. I mean, you know, I mentioned there the Alexander Calder work you just sold. You just sold one yourself for $110,000. You also sold a very important piece of artwork, and we can show it here, Dissident Score. That sold for $6.5 million. So these aren't small pieces of art that you're selling and seeing bought on your platform.
That's right. We see transactions from hundreds of dollars to millions of dollars at the click of a button from a mobile device, Julia. It's one of the things that I think those of us who've seen the internet evolve and serve different industries, we continue to be pleasantly surprised by, is the level of comfort people have transacting online.
Yeah, I mean, 2/3. You said of people are buying on their cell phones. To what extent is that just? Oh, and there we go. That's the art piece that I was talking about. To what extent is this driven by inability to access rooms like auctions at Christie's and Sotheby's? And to what extent is this, as you were describing earlier, just this simple shift away from people getting more comfortable with not seeing art before they buy it, with doing these things online, with researching artists online too? Is it sustainable, the kind of growth that you've seen on your platform over the last year? I guess that's my question.
It is. We've seen three factors influencing the industry. The first is consumers are transacting online for everything from homes to cars to jewelry, and they've come to expect an online option when they're purchasing. Secondly, we're seeing that the art industry had to meet the collector where they were, especially during COVID, when they couldn't insist on an offline transaction. But finally, their collectors are a next generation of collectors who around the world are inheriting $15 trillion over the next 10 years, and who were raised in a world where you expect ease of use, transparency, and low friction. I think all of those factors come together to help to transform and make more open and transparent this art world.
Yeah, there's two other themes that I think that are interesting to me. Among the 20 artists that had the biggest increase in demand on your platform, 15 of those artists were people of color. You also said that 45% of collectors surveyed say they have a preference for collecting work by established artists too. And I can throw some names out there, but people will recognize them. Andy Warhol, Kusama is a great example, sort of street artists, Kaws, Banksy, Keith Haring too. So you are seeing this draw to names that people recognize, but also a draw to people of color, which fits with the times, I think, too.
That's right. The emergence of the activist collector over the last few years, I think, one of the really positive factors in the art world. And it's why we're seeing the highest growth among what have historically been underrepresented and underappreciated artists. There's a real sea change happening in the industry right now, and we're proud to be a part of that.
Oh, speaking of activist investors then, what does your audience and the collectors that come on your platform think of NFTs, non-fungible tokens? Because we've had these discussions on the show. Christie's is getting involved, Sotheby's is getting involved. What do your collectors make of it?
91% of those who we surveyed said that they did not have an intention of pursuing NFTs, collecting it in the next year. It tends to still be a pretty niche space, but an interesting one. Artists can now create their artwork in digital and have the ownership of that artwork recorded on the blockchain so that it can be truly owned and collected by someone. And it's a space we're watching closely and with interest.
What do you think it means for the big auction houses, the kind of growth that you're seeing and this comfort? Do you think it just means that they have to get digitized really fast and be able to really ramp up their online offering? Or do you see what you're doing as a significant disruptor to the traditional forms of selling art of all prices?
I think what's happening in the art world right now, and in part the work that Artsy is doing, is great news for the art world. And the reason, Julia, is the art world is a surprisingly, shockingly small market as compared to other comparable categories. People spend $1 trillion a year on jewelry and watches, and only 5% of that on art. And yet art is this great thing you can do for the world. You can be a patron of the arts. You can beautify your home. You can help advance our culture. Everyone loves art, but the art world hasn't felt as accessible as so many other ways people could spend or invest their money. And as we bring prices online, as we make it easier to understand an artist and her work and her journey and the market for her artwork, and we give you a button you can click to buy it with ease and confidence, that brings more and more people into the art world, which only helps to expand this art market and better serve galleries, auction houses, and all the people in the world who should have art in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the big challenges that I hear today, the opacity, the big players, the sort of whales of the art market, the dealers that have so much power in this market. So I think the idea of activist investors, of democratizing the access to art, and also that plays into even just being able to research, I think, new artists too, actually should be very beneficial for all, whether it's the creators of that content, but also those that want to buy into this. And not everybody's doing it for investment purposes, but for those that do, this should be a good thing.
That's right. We're able to take, because we have so much data on what artists are growing and what markets are evolving and what's transacting and who's looking for what, we can democratize and have democratized the data, make it available to anyone who's interested in buying in there, right through our app. And I think that gives confidence to a buyer that they're making a good decision, and it helps them to not only make this purchase, but future purchases.
You know, Mike, I did some artwork of my own when I was illustrating to our viewers what a non-fungible token was, and I do have a picture of it. I was going to get your potential valuation online, but I don't think you can see me, so we'll save that for our next conversation. Look, there it was for my audience. Once again, it's doing a run. I'm hoping that there is an alternative career out there for me, but Mike, I will get your views on this later. Great to chat to you about this budding alternative asset market. Thank you. The CEO of Artsy there. Great to chat to you.